Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's track guide and tutorial for the GT3s for Imola for week 5. Imola this week, pretty good track for GT3s with traffic as well, so it should be quite a popular week I'd say, especially with Road America and GT3 Sprint being wet, so this should probably be like the combo to go for this week. This lap is in the Mercs, not the fastest car, but it was very close to being one of the fastest, so good reference to look around. So, turn 1. You've got on the outside here, you've got the 200, 150 boards. You kind of want to aim for like this little orange mark here on the outside where the wall is. Almost where the track has this like escape road here. Especially with the wind we had a tailwind to turn 1 for the data packs this week, so it was very key not to go barrel into turn 1 due to you get a load of understeer on the apex and you missed a corner. So my suggestion would always be, even when you got a bit of a headwind, this corner is always better if you just back up a little bit on braking, trying to roll a bit more speed into the first corner, just so it sets up turn 2 and 3 a bit easier. The harder you go into turn 1, the more tricky the second and third part of the corner will be, and it just really compromises the whole sector. You gain more by getting the exit than the entry here. So, on the outside, you'll see, braking wise, like I said, where the escape road was, and I don't really want to be really aggressive. You don't really want to peak the brakes on the way in. You'll be nice and progressive on the brakes, aim for about 70-75% at most, I'd probably say, for turn 1. And with this, you just want to just brake and trail this all the way into the corner. You see all the way in, 50 meter board. This is where you want to start thinking about bringing it over to the inside for the curb. As this curb, not the actual sausage curb, the actual curb itself is quite a nice place, like hook the car up for you. It does it for free, gives you a lot of rotation, and it just sets you up nicely for turn 2 and 3. If you miss the turn in here, it's quite tricky then to gain anything in the second part. You'd end up being too tight, and then you just lose a load of speed on the exit. So I'd always try and go to the corner a little bit earlier than you think. So for me, you see here, we start actually going to the corner pretty early, slowly bleeding off the brake. Just slowly though, nothing too sudden. If you're too sudden with the brake inputs, if you come off it quite early, you can get the car to snap on the way in, unfortunately. Especially with the wind we had here, we had a tailwind. So just be a bit careful of that. But yeah, trail brake it in. You see, we're aiming to get up on the red and white of the curb. If I go to chase, you'll see, using all the road as possible. Very, very close to the sausage curbs. Don't use them. If you hit this, you can sometimes get away with it, but it can cause a lot of front damage, especially in the first few laps with the heavy fuel and the cold tyres. But hook onto this curb. You see you're already back on the throttle as well at this point, just to bounce the car, so when it lands a bit smoother. If you just hit this curb and no inputs, the car will bounce a little bit. And from here, you try to now maximise turn 2 and turn 3. So keep it tight to the left. Don't go straight off the curb and over to the right hand side. You see now we're in a nice little position here where we can just cut over the right hand side curb here. So also from here from turn 1 to turn 2, you can actually just hold the power at like 80% up to this curb and then 100% throttle from the turn 2 curb to turn 3. Or you can do what I've done here where I want 100% in between, lift off a little bit over the second curb, sorry, and then 100% throttle on the exit. Either way is fine. It doesn't really affect lap time. It's kind of all about how you approach turn 1. If you've hooked the curb up nicely and you get that little bit of extra rotation, 100% into this is fine. If you miss the curb, you get a little bounce. 80-90% throttle up to this point, then 100% afterwards is exactly the same on pace. Into turn 2 then, same concept, aim for the curb on the inside. See here, I do my lift off as I go over the curb, just to try and keep the car a little bit neater through here. It's kind of easy to hit this curb and push out wide. When the car lands, you see, you're running really far out to the left here. That's the problem with that curb. If you hit it wrong, you can cause the car to bounce and just push out here. And if you're out here, turn 3 is super tight and you run the risk of hitting this curb at the wrong angle. 1, it bounces and throws you off the track, and 2, you even get the off track. So you want to just keep it a little bit away from this curb. If you're out on this curb, again, you've gone in too fast in turn 2 on the curb. But from this point here, 100% throttle, tip it into turn 3. So you want to aim for the sausage curb, just to cut over it a little bit, and with that it allows you to use all this runoff on the outside. You can get the off track if your car's off the curb. It's quite an awful off track, I'd say. It's quite easy to get, especially in qualifying trim, so be a bit careful of that. But normally if you've got the off track like out here, it's because you've bounced on the curb here at the wrong angle. You've actually cut it at this part here, so it's gone straight, or you've hit it this part here and the car's launched. It's quite tricky. You kind of want to aim for this like yellow part on the top of the sausage curb. And you see if we go to far chase now, or chase. You see, using all the road, but you'll get the off track as soon as your left hand wheel's like off the curb itself. That's like the track limit for this corner. So that's the end of the first sector. Nice little run down to turn 4 and 5. Pretty tricky chicane, especially on entry, due to it's quite, again, similar to turn 1, it's quite a misleading entry. You've got to go it quite early. If you miss it, if you go quite late, you do run the risk of just going in too deep, and it makes the second part of the corner too tight, and then you get an awful exit up to the hairpin. Especially with this hairpin coming up after the chicane, being probably one of the main overtaking opportunities with multi-class. Very key to get a good run through here to get you like the best possible chance up into the hairpin for an overtake. Recommendations then for going through this corner: 100 board on the outside, 50 board here as well. So between this area here, you want to start thinking about lifting off and braking. It's pretty, again with the braking, it's pretty smooth, 50-60%, just enough to slow the car down, but you're not jabbing the brake at 70-80% where you then cause a massive shift in balance and it'll cause the car to like over rotate on the way in or snap. 50 meter board from now, start tipping it in slowly. In the Mercedes, I pull the downshift to third just before I get to the curb. In the Audi, for instance, you was down 2 gears here, so it was 1 initial braking and then 1 in between the left and the right. The NSX is the same. With the NSX, you do the shift in between. Basically, you're using that downshift just to rotate the front end into the corner for you. It slows the car down, using the higher RPM to rotate the car in because it slows the car down for you. But up over this curb, you want to miss the first bit and then aim for the second one. Just, as you see, we're straight over it for the chase. So we missed the first one, hit the second one, and with this, you have to brake it ever so slightly. Like you got it on ever so slightly, sorry. Just trailing it in a little bit just to keep the front end to bite. But you're aiming to try and keep your car over this side of the track. If you bounce off this curb, and you can imagine if you land like out here, this right is so tight and you just get no exit up the hill. So try and keep it over to the left hand side, trail brake it in. As soon as I land, you see now I'm still turning the wheel to the left a little bit. I'm still trying to aim to keep my car on the left hand side to maximise the right. But as soon as the car lands, you'll see I get back on the brake again, just a little bit, get it back up to like 40-45%. And this just allows the car just allows you to slow the car down a little bit, but also position the car for a better run into the next part, into turn 5. If you just roll it in, you run the risk of just getting a bit of understeer on the way in, and then you have to crank the steering lock in. And if you just burn the front up ever so slightly here by just turning too much, you really feel it, especially in the next sector coming up with the high-speed sections. So just be a bit wary of that. Keep it over the left-hand side. Aim for the right curb here now. Trail brake it all the way in. Then as soon as you get to the curb here on the right-hand side in turn 5, this point here, just be a bit progressive with the power. Build it up to like 70-80%, then 100. Don't just smack the power to 100% because otherwise you actually end up at this point here and you're bouncing on the runoff curb. You get to the off track and you're in the grass and gravel. So just be a bit patient. Just set it up so 80-70% here, and then progressively build to 100, and you want to be on 100% just before you get to the curb. With that, you use all this curb on the outside without getting the off track. If you're getting the off track here, similar to the concept of turn 3, you've just gone at turn 5, or the second part of the chicane, you've gone the power too aggressive, and it's just pushed the car wide. Normally is the case with that. From here up to the hairpin turn 6, bring it straight over to the right hand side, 50 meter board, or where the escape road is. As soon as you get in the car, pretty much in a straight line. Brake, soft brake again, same as turn 1, 50%, and just slowly tip it into the corner. There's 2 ways you can approach the hairpin. You can do a quite aggressive V-off, or you go it quite early and get your wheels onto the white line here and just roll it around, and then like mid to exit, you slowly build the power in, and as soon as you can get the car pretty much in a straight line, that's when you 100% throttle. To me, the tighter line is probably the more beneficial one, especially in the races, due to it being so hot this week with the track temps. I would recommend just keeping it a bit tighter, just to keep that right rear in check the entire race. Going out wide and V'ing it off, you put a lot more stress on the tyre, and in such a hot track, with such a hot track temp, you'll just kill the rear right. So, keeping it tighter, you'll keep the tyres more alive through the stint. But braking zone wise and turning in, from here, trail brake it all the way and slowly release it. One key I would give into this hairpin, always try and keep a bit more brake on than you think. As soon as you come off that brake and you're rolling, the car just goes straight and you have no rotation. You've got to really hold the brake into this corner, keep it nice and tight. You see why we're literally on the white line here. at the perfect, well, near the white line, sorry, but you want to be on the white line or just touching it. And from here, you see we're already mid corner on the power, 50%, bang on. We just hold it, almost to like where you see this line across the track. You see these lines here. So we're quite late around the corner now. At this point here, this is where you should start building the power up to 100%. And with this, it just allows you to run it out just enough on the exit without costing too much time. Because sometimes if you run out wide and you're like here, you just lose too much speed up the hill. And with that, you've also then just slid the tyres, so you've overheated them. And any sort of overheating of the tyres here into turn 7, it's just terrible. You just have so much oversteer on the way in. So just keep that in mind. Just be nice and patient on the throttle. Around here, mid to exit. Up the hill. With this week, with the data pack, it was actually a headwind into T7, so we could actually go in quite aggressive. Some of us just keep an eye out around here with the wind, because this corner is super critical for lap time, especially in qualifying. Just so make sure you know which way the wind is going to be hitting your car into here. That's the biggest recommendation for this corner. We had a headwind, so 50-meter board we were aiming for here. All the way over to the right hand side, 50-meter board. Again, the same concept with braking, soft braking, 50-60% area. All you want to do is from here, just one downshift, tip it in, probably just before the end of here on the right hand side. Pretty early turning. And you want to aim, you're aiming for your left wheels to be hitting this white line. Trail brake it all the way in, and as soon as you get to the white line, you're going to be building the power up, hold it as you go over the curb, and 100% before you get to the exit curb. You want to, especially with a headwind, you could really throw the car into the corner and then be really aggressive on the power on the exit. So I'll play it in full, you'll see what I mean. Like you're going really aggressive, soft brake, one downshift, throw it in, really commit to the exit. And you can use a lot of road on the outside here. You can even go a bit wider than this. You can get away with a little bit more, but I wouldn't really recommend going too far here. Yes, you've used more, you carried more entry speed, but you've also just travelled more distance, so you actually kind of just have a similar delta coming off the corner. Keeping it a bit tighter, a bit neater. Makes it a bit easier to bring it straight back over to the left-hand side. This next section was pretty tricky. It's quite easy to lose a lot of time here. Especially now they've changed like the track limits on the exits and stuff like that. People kind of forget this. So into here. First big thing I would say, make sure you try and get your car as far over to the left hand side as you want. As you can. Aim for like where the gutter is here, where the 50 board is. Just before the 50 board. Or just after 50 board, sorry. Left hand wheels in the curb on the outside. Slow trail brake. And just ever so small. Just like tiny input into here. Trail brake it all the way in. No like sudden jab of the brake. No sudden turning of the wheel. No sudden jab of the throttle. You've got to be super smooth. Just to get the car on the limit of grip. With that, it allows you to carry the most speed possible into the corner and then set yourself up all the way through. Because from here, all you'll do now is roll the speed into this next part to where the runoff is on the outside to set yourself up for up the hill. All this part is setting this part up. So you've got to be nice and smooth here. As you can imagine, if you're loose or you're fighting the car through here, you just, every time you do that, you compromise the exit. So just keep that in mind through here. So trail brake it in. Down one gear. Now once you come off the curb, if I actually go to change and show how much curb you should be using as well. You see at this point here, we've fully gone over the curb. As soon as the car lands, you're going to be back on the brakes. Just a bit more, like another 20%, just to help slow the car down because you've carried a lot of speed in. You're aiming now to use all the runoff on the outside. You see, like we're literally, if I go to chase again now, you see, your left wheels are nearly on the grass on the way in here. Very, very important that you use all this road what you can. As you can imagine, if you're just a little bit off this, it's too tight. You've got to use all this road here on the outside to maximise the entry speed. From here again, you see now we're braking nearly 50% just to slow the car down. Down to second. You can do it in third if you want as well. Depending on the car. Some cars are higher gear, it just bogs down too much. You never get the run up the hill. Some cars are lower gear. Yes, you hit the limiter a bit earlier, but you get an initial better release off the corner. So just play around with that. Either way works. But the main key is, from this curb here, you want to follow this all the way into the corner. So trail brake it in. The second my right wheel's now touching the inside curb, just be a bit wary. I've shown it in blimp now as well. Just be wary of this curb here. If you tap this, the car just bounces and goes so far wide. So just be a bit cautious of that, but you want to be using a red and white curve. Just get on top of it, similar to turn 1. It just allows the car to rotate. And at this point, you see, on the throttle, you're going to build it up to 70%. And as soon as you put up on the runoff on the outside on the left, 100%. You've got to maximise getting on the power as soon as possible due to it being quite a steep incline uphill. I'll play it in full speed, you'll see. It's very on the limit into here, so just practice it. Trail brake in, bit more brake, turn in early, up on the curb, power, 100% power. The off track here, you can use, as you see, you can use so much road here. It's a lot nicer than it used to be. It used to be quite sensitive here. But you get the off track or slow down sometimes you can get when your right wheels are actually just past the red and white curb and you're like on the green. So as long as you've got your right wheels on the curb, you'll be fine. From here, just bring it back over to the left hand side, into the chicane. So into the chicane, it's quite a tricky, it's a very tricky corner, should I say. It's all about managing the bounce in the second phase. That is where all the lap time is. In the Mercedes, it was very tough with the bounce on the second part. I know the NSX, for instance, was a monster over a chicane. So it's very car dependent on how you have to approach this, unfortunately. So for the Merc, it was kind of like I had to use a little bit less on the right and more on the left. The NSX can use more on the right, less on the left. It is one of them, unfortunately. But the main entry and concept is the same. So 50 meter board here on the outside. Just before it, 50-60% brake. Slowly peak up to about 70 on the way in. The main key is not to hit the brake at 70% and then hold it there the entire time. Go a bit softer and then build it up. This just allows you to carry a little bit more speed in. The more speed you can carry on the way into the first curb, the nicer the bounce will be in the direction change between the right and the left. That is the biggest advice I can give. On the way in, so you want to be aiming for your right wheels to go in between this and this. Just over this part here. Off the brake and off the throttle now as the car lifts off. And then as soon as the car then lands, back on the brake ever so slightly, just a little jab of the brake, like 10%. And all that does, especially in the Mercedes, it was just to get your car then to point into the left-hand side of the curb. Up on this curb, build the power in similar to what you would do in turn 3, for instance, where you just hold the power. Or turn 2, sorry. And just hold this power. You see the car bounce a little bit on the exit. Just wait for that bounce, and then get on power. If you're bouncing, there's no need to just put 100% power in. If you do that, the car's just going to just spin on the exit, unfortunately. So the biggest key is, as soon as it starts bouncing, just be nice and patient, let it do the bounce, then 100%. And the off track here, just make sure you keep your left wheels on the curb, same as every other corner so far on this lap with the off tracks. But I'll play that in full from chase. You see on the way in, use all the right, up over the left, and with that you should end up out here. Then run up to the final sector. So into the final sector, you got the board here 150. Biggest thing I would say into here is, as soon as you get the car in a straight line, so now, think about braking. It's such a misleading corner. You'll see it so many times in a racing, be it people you're around or traffic. Everyone in here just overestimates how early you have to brake and just go barreling in, miss the corner, end up in the gravel and all the crap on the outside. My biggest thing I would say into here, as soon as you see this straighten up, this is your braking point. No matter the wind, if you've got a headwind, if you've got a tailwind, just do the same thing. Just be nice and early on the brakes into it and just roll it in. See 50-60% and just build it up. Just trail brake it all the way in, down to second. Early turning for me, I'd always recommend as well. You want to get up on this curb. Up on the curb, bounce the throttle 50-60% around the corner, just to carry the momentum through. And as soon as you can land and get the steering lock off, then 100%. If you're 100% throttle now, you're out here and you're going to get the off track. So I would just recommend being a bit patient. This sector is all about being smooth, patient, and just really waiting. All you're trying to do here is set up for the final corner. That's all you're doing. Any sort of like sending into the ABS, missing the corner, all you're doing now is compromising the main straight coming up. Especially in qualifying where you need the lap time here. Just be very patient. Up on the curb, bounce the throttle. As soon as it lands, 100%. Get as far out here as possible. The off track here is quite annoying. You can get it quite easy on the outside. So just be a little bit cautious of that. Maybe practice it a few times in qualifying, seeing how far wide you can go. But if I go chase, you'll see. Normally, it's when your right wheels touch this like grass part here, unfortunately. But from here, you already want to be thinking about the final corner. There's two ways you can approach it. You can either do, at this point here, you just lift off and do a short shift to third or whatever gear, like the next gear up, and then you roll in up on the curb, and once you're on the curb, then you hit the power. Or you can go in quite aggressive in second, on the brakes, and then be a bit more like forceful of the car on the way in. With the higher temps, I would recommend just like rolling in a little bit more. See how it's roll in second, trail brake it in, use more curb on the inside just to hook the car up for yourself for free entry speed. Hook the curb on the throttle, and just be very cautious on the exit. With it being so hot, and obviously with the tailwind we had down the main straight, the car at this point here can just get really loose. You see that? I'm already fighting the car. Especially in qualifying, it's very tricky and it's very easy to lose a lot of lap time to the line. So the biggest recommendation, just be nice and gentle on the throttle on the exit. And with that, and just keep it nice and tight, especially in qualifying, just follow this all the way around to the line. And that is a lap for Imola this week.